Hello everyone, my name is Sam and I talk about my experiences as a queer person with chronic illness. If that sounds like something you want to hear more about, then please do click subscribe. Today I want to talk about my experience with having a chronic illness flare-up whilst abroad. I've been lucky enough that up until this point it's not something I've really experienced much, but I did experience it on my most recent trip. Now look, my trips in the past, they weren't completely without difficulty. I would still experience fatigue, I would still experience pain, have to deal with my skin, all of those things that I experience on a daily basis whilst here at home. However, this time I was in an actual full-blown flare-up. The sort of flare-up where normally if I was at home, I would probably be taking some time off work, I would be stuck in bed, but this time I was abroad and I was only there for 4 days with a friend and really wanting to make the most of it. To sort of add to it all, the friend that I was with wasn't really used to having to deal with my chronic illnesses at all. It's a friend that hadn't spent enough time with me in the past in order to know what it's like to see me experience the symptoms that I can experience, especially at the intensity and severity of a flare-up. Normally I travel with my partner who's all very used to it by now, but this time there was this added worry and pressure to do with the friend that I was with. The friend I was with is plenty caring and really lovely and actually ended up being amazing about it all, but I can't lie and say that it wasn't a little bit difficult for me to just know that this was something that was hanging over our trip. I think it's really interesting how much our mind and circumstances can alter how we experience and manage our symptoms. Like I said, the sort of flare-up that I was in, it would have normally crushed me at home, whereas on the trip I still managed to do pretty much everything that I wanted to do. Sure, the pace was definitely impacted, but I'm still pleased with how much I did actually manage to get done. On holiday, there is of course the added element of good old FOMO. You're out there and so you've got to just do the things. I don't doubt that that had a huge impact on how much I actually managed to do whilst I was there, and also adding the fact that I was there with a friend and I didn't want them to get FOMO and miss out on anything as part of their trip. Generally, I think for me, the prospect of adventuring and travelling brings me so much joy that I think the positive hormones genuinely do just get me through it. I tend to feel a bit better whilst I'm abroad, and for those of you that know, I have fibromyalgia, which they do say is quite closely linked to stress. So it would kind of make sense that a lot of the times my symptoms would be a bit more mitigated than normal. It wasn't really the case on this trip, but on a general note, that's how I experience it. I think all those positive hormones really helped me and helped me get out of bed and walk those long distances. Sure, some accommodations were made between me hanging on to my friend, taking a few trams over really short distances, but mostly I just did a lot of my recharging whenever we stopped to have food and whenever we were back in our Airbnb. When we ate food, we made sure to really enjoy it and never rush it, and that time was really valuable for me for just to sit down, rest my legs, and really recuperate ahead of the next lot of walking. We also made sure that everything was quite planned, so we knew where we were going, so there was less elements of just hovering about and trying to figure out what you're doing, because that all adds strain mentally and physically. Now, this should be all really great. I should be really grateful, and I am, that despite the fact that I was in a really horrific flare-up, I still managed to have a good holiday. I know that not everybody would have the same experience, and I'm really lucky that I got to have a trip that I still, on a general note, enjoyed, despite the fact that I was in a lot of difficulty. But there is a bit of a problem with it that's not really acknowledged enough. It highlights this problem where people then think that you're faking it. At one of my old jobs, my manager took me aside and told me that some of my teammates were not appreciating the fact that I was able to turn up for socials but was still on light duties at work. Now, the two things are really different, but for a lot of people who haven't had to experience certain symptoms, they won't understand that you can have a different experience socially and a different experience within your work or other levels of personal life. For example, with this case where that manager spoke to me, I was doing a very physical job and I had just slipped my disc. I was barely able to walk and so therefore obviously wasn't going to be climbing trees, but going to the pub wasn't exactly a stretch. Sometimes it's hard not to feel like I'm helping perpetuate that image. There are days where I'm feeling like total trash, but then I spend my time telling people all the great things that I've been getting up to. It adds this level of guilt about enjoying myself that really shouldn't be there. But often what those stories and experiences don't say are all the things that have been turned down, the long-term effects of enjoying said things that you got up to. Every friend that you've had to say no to, and all the times you've laid in bed scrolling Instagram, really wishing that you'd been able to go to that social that you decided not to go to. And it really doesn't show the sacrifices that you've made in order to get to enjoy something or to even just get by. I think it's really easy to underestimate the power of mindset and mental health, especially in relation to stress. Look, reducing stress won't cure a chronic illness, and it's ableist to think so. It's a big thing that a lot of us face whenever we go to the doctors and they keep just telling us that we're stressed and it's our bad mental health or it's our jobs that are causing the symptoms that we experience. However, in my own personal experience, there are some tangible ways you can see that it made it easier for me to cope with a chronic illness and disability. In truth, it does come with a whole lot of privilege, and that is something that could be covered in a whole separate video. Have you found your experience with chronic illness to be similar? Please do let us know down in the comments. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this in some way helpful or insightful. Please like and subscribe if you want to keep updated, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.